So now I want to tell you something about the resources that are available for learning about the shared socioeconomic pathways and for working with shared socioeconomic pathways. And I want to go over the following resource types: the data that are available, especially the data that are available in the database hosted at IIASA and other data sources, literature overviews, literature databases that are available through Iconics and through other sources, and the Iconics email list knowledge base for communicating about the SSPs. So to start with the data side of things, at IIASA, the link that you've shown here, there is the Shared Socioeconomic Pathways database, which contains basic elements of the SSPs, population, GDP projections. It contains the integrated assessment model quantifications of energy use, greenhouse gas emissions, land use, all those aspects of integrated assessment scenarios. And it contains the CMAP6 data on emissions of greenhouse gases and air pollutants. And all of those data are available for your download and to process further in different formats. And here is an example of what that database looks like once you get to it. Right, once you enter the database, you see that you can select here on the left, you can select regions, you can select which indicators to look at from which models, and then the variables. And here, one quick overview actually of the GDP projections for the 5 SSPs at the world level from the OECD projections. But next to this database, with these basic data, there are other additional data that are very useful for working with the SSPs. For one, there are spatial population projections available from several different sources, at least at 2 links shown here, and we will make links available on the Iconics website. At NCAR and at CSIN, there are databases of spatial population projections at different spatial scales, the most highest granular one at the 1 kilometer scale. And then there's also the colleagues in Japan from NIES have developed spatial GDP projections. And those are available to work with and download as well. And then also colleagues at IIASA, Narasimha Rao, has developed income distribution, spatial poverty projections for the SSPs, which can be downloaded through the IIASA SSP database. And so here are some examples of what these data look like. Here's the spatial population projections from the Brian Jones and Brian O'Neill work, where you see for 2050 the SSP2 here, for example. The spatial GDP projections from the Japanese colleagues, you see here for SSP1 by mid-century. Then we see here SSP2, the differences, and SSP3, the differences across these SSPs, and how different areas will have different economic activity. And then some examples actually on the poverty side. Those data are available, for instance, here summarized at the global level for population under $1.9 per day. You see how those evolve for the 4 different SSPs in urban and rural. But then if we look broader for poverty, we can look at population under $3 per day and population under $5.50 per day. And you see that poverty at these different levels, is phased out in really different basis over time in each of the SSPs. Now, next to these basic drivers, there's also many additional data available from some of the extensions, also extensions that Chris talked about, and extensions that you definitely also see in the recent O'Neill et al. Paper on the achievements and needs of the climate change scenario framework. But some noticeable additional data, you often find those data sources actually in those papers are on roads into the future, future transport scenarios and infrastructures. cement use into the future, and especially also adaptive capacity, air pollution, biodiversity, water. On many of these specific topics, there are studies that have developed indicators and downloadable data for working with the SSPs. And that is the advantage of this scenarios framework, where because of the joint shared pathways, we can enrich them very widely with the contribution of many individual researchers. Then next to the data, there is also, we try to collect the literature, and we try to do that at ICONICS. If you go to the ICONICS website, iconicsssp.org, you'll find there, first and foremost, an overview of the special issues that were published on the SSPs, the one on the framework that describes the background of the SSPs, and the special issue on the quantification and narratives of the SSPs. We have a very detailed literature database that we set up, but at the moment it's being revised. You can still access it on the website, and there is a link to a Zotero database that you can connect and work with yourself. However, with the recent O'Neill et al. Paper on the achievements and needs of the scenarios framework, there's also a new literature overview database that's a little bit broader focus, and it has almost 1,400 papers and research sources available. This one is available for download at CSIN at the link shown here. It's also, these are the literature database that is analyzed in that paper. And we are at the moment working to develop the SSP database at the ICONICS website based to further develop the O'Neill et al. Database on the ICONICS website. And so here, a quick overview on the literature on these 1,400 papers. You see how broad the coverage is of where the SSPs are used, with applications to agriculture, to water, health, and then further extensions toward emissions, energy use, and land use, and regional extensions, population extensions, economic extensions. And then the last resource I want to tell you about is the email list. You can sign up for the email list at iconicsssp.org, the ICONICS website. And it had 115 members a few years ago. Probably we are now actually, I hope we are higher at the moment. People have varying experience with the SSPs. There are the developers of the SSPs are on there, but also people that are just starting to work with them. And you should really use it to ask any questions you have or information you want to spread to the community. This is basically, you have here the community of people that develop and work with the shared socioeconomic pathways are on this list. And so if you have any information to share with them or questions to those people, this email list is one of the best resources that you can use. And with that, I want to thank you very much for your attention in this first ICONICS webinar. And now we open up for Q&A. Looking forward to your questions.